Welcome to the Jersey Score, and if you like talking college football realignment, you've come to the right place, so be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, since the initial announcement of the Magnificent Seven, there have been details coming out that perhaps these schools are not looking to dissolve the grant of rights completely. They're just looking at restructuring the deal to have uneven revenue sharing for some of those bigger brands that feel like they should be taking home a little bit more. But the other day, as part of my other video using ChatGPT, go check it out. I I filmed another part that I didn't include with the video, but I broke down what these schools would be thinking if they join this group and if they're looking to end the grant of rights, that they must all have an idea of where they'd be ending up. So, anyway, let's take a look at that because I think it's still relevant. As you probably know, Florida State and Clemson have long been tired of carrying the rest of the conference, the ACC, and have wanted to get out of their grant of rights and current TV deal, which take them all the way through 2036, locked in at their rate, when they think that they deserve more and they see their other rivals from the Big Ten and SEC only getting richer. So they've really been trying to find ways to get out of the grant of rights. And finally, they've been able to convince 5 other schools from the ACC that it would be best to dissolve their current grant of rights. And the schools that are with them are UVA, UNC, NC State, Miami, and Virginia Tech. And so for me, that's very telling. It's very interesting because it tells us that if these schools are willing to break their grant of rights, they have to know that members like Florida State and Clemson are most likely leaving for quote unquote greener pastures, which means they must have a plan of their own, or they must, most likely they feel like that they are also going to be able to get an invite to one of those conferences where they'll be making more, because if the ACC loses those 2 members, there's no way that they're going to make more than their current deal, even if they're able to act on the fly like the Big 12 did and add other members. There's no way they're going to be able to add on to the value of what their current grant of rights is. So they must see a reason, and that reason must be that they also feel like they have a good chance of getting that invite. That's the only logical that's the only thing that makes sense of why they would logically want to get out of their current grant of rights, because otherwise they're just letting the cash cows of the conference out scot-free. So looking at it and trying to figure out where they'd be going, because really, even though I think some schools may, if this does happen, may end up in the Big 12, they wouldn't be voting to get rid of the grant of rights just for the chance to go to the Big 12. That's kind of a lateral move, and so I think most likely it's obviously the Big 10 or the SEC. So if we look at it, the only schools that out of this 7, the Magnificent Seven that they're calling them, that qualify are UVA and UNC. So what makes most sense is that those 2 would be going to the Big Ten. They're both AAU. Their academics fit the Big Ten. I remember years ago hearing some rumors that there was some interest in the Big Ten in them then to expand their footprint. So that makes a lot of sense. And then I think the next one on here would be Florida State. Makes sense. They're not AAU yet, but they're working hard to be, and they really feel like they deserve it. So perhaps the Big Ten, makes an exception in this case. For example, Nebraska was AAU when they were getting approved by the Big Ten, but not when they entered the conference. So perhaps with Florida State on the rise, that they feel like their trajectory is enough to let them in. So let's just say that, which would mean that the other 4 schools would be going to SEC, which makes sense. Tech has long wanted to get in. Clemson seems like a natural fit. NC State gets the SEC into North Carolina, and Miami would also be a great fit in a lot of ways. So that would be my guess. If these schools feel like they have a promise or they have a home lined up, this would make sense. And why there's not 8, perhaps the Big Ten is waiting for confirmation on Notre Dame, or they're trying to get Notre Dame, so they want to keep a slot open for them Although I feel like Duke would also be a great fit. Fits academically, would bring great basketball and a great rivalry with UNC. So it's obviously one of the bigger brands that's left out there. But I know that basketball doesn't drive revenue the same way football does. So maybe that's why they've yet to get the invite. I don't know. What I also think is really telling is who isn't on this list. We see Pitt, who qualifies and is AAU, but they are in the same state as Penn State, likely getting blocked there. Another one, Georgia Tech, AAU, great academics, is in Atlanta, brings a great market, but for whatever reason, their athletics has not been great for a long time, at least in terms of football, basketball. It's been years. Thinking Chris Bosh, I don't know, maybe they've been good since then. But so, anyways, looking at it, this is kind of my read of it. So, what do you make of the Magnificent Seven? Do you think there's a chance they still try to end the grant of rights early and break up the ACC? And if so, do you think that all 7 of these schools could potentially find a home in either the Big Ten or the SEC? Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen, and we will see you next time.